In terms of the sort of undervalued assets, the CEO briefed me on that, and I'm told that a process of doing a new valuation of all of the assets has begun, including an inventory of the assets that are not only in South Africa but in other countries. So clearly there have been perhaps irregularities, and that this will only be one of them. And these will need to be attended to. So we as a board would like to have firstly, the complete inventory of all of the assets wherever they may be. Secondly, we want proper valuations done, and that process has started. And then thirdly, we will take our responsibility of looking after the assets of the organization and the finances of the organization as required by the PFMA. We'll take that very seriously.
And that, of course, newly appointed SAA board chairperson Derek Hanekom saying that a new process has begun to evaluate the South African Airways assets. And this comes after suspended Public Enterprises Director General Kgathatso Tlhakudi alleged that there was a massive undervaluation of SAA assets by equity partner Takatso. Now, Hanekom says that proper evaluations will be done soon. SAA entered business rescue in December 2019, if you'll remember, after years of maladministration and corruption. So to elaborate on his assertions of under-evaluation of SAA assets, we join now here in studio by the suspended Public Enterprise Director General Kgathatso Tlhakudi. Thanks so much for your time, Mr. Tlhakudi. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Sakina, and thank you for having me on Morning Live.
I've been grappling with where to start with this interview. Perhaps a good place to start would be with your suspension. The fact that you're on suspension, you are raising very serious allegations, but let's start with why you are suspended.
Sakina, the department and the minister are saying that I've interfered with an appointment process in a junior position, junior manager position. That was the position of a director responsible for facilities as well as security. This is because I asked the panel to interview another candidate that we had interviewed for another position, which was anti-corruption. This position, Sakina, was never filled. On the 1st of February 2022, when I got back to the office, I basically disapproved the filling of the position because I thought, let's have a rethink about this position. Maybe you can combine it with another position in the department. So, and this was based on a recommendation. The HR department in the department had recommended that this person be appointed. And I said, no, let's hold it here. So this is what is claimed.
They recommended which person be appointed? The person that you had asked
that I had asked, yeah. And
be interviewed.
And I stopped that particular when I came back. So there was they said there was a whistle blowing against me because I'm interfering with the process. But that's not the issue. The issue is that I had started to raise serious concerns about this transaction. And I'm saying this because no executive or head of an organization gets suspended for such a thing. There's no misconduct that has been committed here. There's no losses that the organization has suffered in that process. And I had started raising these issues in 2021. End of 2021, in November, I'd been presented with a draft of a share sale and purchase agreement.
Okay, hold on. Before we conflate issues, so just to conclude on, the allegations against you for interfering in the appointment of a certain candidate to a certain position. Was there a disciplinary process that was embarked upon, and how did that unfold?
Well, the disciplinary process has been unfolding. It's still going on. I'm sure it will be concluded very soon. It is quite clear. I know what the verdict is going to be. I'm sitting in front of what I'll call a hanging chairperson This is a person that has shown himself to be quite biased. This is a person. Last week Friday, I was supposed to present my defense. Refused to hear my defense. Actually wanted to direct me to give a particular a defense, because when I raise these particular issues, it's now they don't belong there. And this is a person that has quite, I'll say, a disturbing past, having also represented Almond Nofemela in the past. I'm sure you know who Almond Nofemela is. So this is what I've been faced with. I'll say that the two senior counsels that have been brought in to deal with this matter have shown themselves not to be interested in hearing the truth. If I may put it that way.
So I think that background is important because it cannot be unimportant that you were alleged to have, been involved in some maladministration or whatever they would deem it in your disciplinary process, and that not being brought up when you are now the one making very serious allegations against the department. So I wanted to establish that. Let's get to your allegations now, which are very, very serious against the department, against Minister Gordhan, and what seemingly has taken place with the SAA Takatso deal. So when this deal was first announced, I remember, were you already on suspension at the time?
When the deal was, it was, I was still in the office. I think I must have been on sick leave. I think it was end of 2021 when this was announced. And I know the share sale and purchase agreement was signed in, when was it? Was it 2022? Yes, I think it's around, March, February, March there, and excuse me for not getting the dates, for not remembering the dates,
So take us through what you believe was untoward about the awarding of this particular deal, given the allegations that you are making about the Takatso Consortium from the beginning. You say that they were not one of the 5 shortlisted
That's correct.
entities.
Yes.
So talk to us about what, according to you, happened there.
As you may recall, in 2020, while the entity was already in business rescue, the department, assisted by RMB, which was the transaction advisor, ran a process where we consolidated all the unsolicited proposals that we had received from various players, both in the country and outside the country, to be the strategic equity partner for SAA. And obviously this was premised on the directive that we had received from government, from cabinet, basically to say that going forward there will not be further funding that will be directed towards SAA. So government had committed to ensure that SAA is restructured. But beyond that, SAA must find a partner that will be willing to provide that funding. So we ran that process. RMB helped us to sift through all those applications that we had received. And that process resulted in 5 entities that were shortlisted. There were 2, in fact, the RMB process produced 2 entities, let me say that. One is it was an international airline group, which also has a local subsidiary. The second was a financing company, which had partnered with an aviation management company. And then there were 3 entities that had also approached the department directly. And this was, there were 2 airlines, 2 African airlines, and also an international airline, or I'll say an investment company linked to an airline which had partnered with a funding group. So those were the 5 entities that were there. Now, none of these entities that are in Takatso were shortlisted. What we had was Harith, which had shown an interest in mango, if my memory still serves me well. So they were not in that first group. We presented that information to the board of Mr. Kena beginning of 2021, and because this board had joined end of 2020 in anticipation of the business rescue process coming to an end, which eventually happened on the 1st of April 2021. And this board, of course, in terms of the Companies Act, needed to assist the shareholder, and in actual fact, if we had a board, they should have handled the process of going through the potential equity partners for consideration by the shareholder. And in this meeting where this information was presented, the Minister of Public Enterprises was there. So it was agreed this is how it will proceed. They will run their own process, and at some point they'll come
with
back.
those 5 entities.
Exactly. With those 5 entities, obviously they needed to appraise themselves on those 5 entities. And the board at the time also said, can we look at any other entities out there? So it is your prerogative. You come back to us with what you have, what you believe will be the right partner for the SAA going forward.
So your allegation, and I'm just doing this in the interest of time to speed it up, you are alleging that Minister Pravin Gordhan then approached Harith, was it?
Yeah.
And you say that the consortium, Takatso, did not exist at that time. But essentially, you're accusing the Minister of interference in this regard. So please explain that to us.
Well, the other partner is in Takatso was Gideon Novik. Obviously, he's now associated with, I think it's Lyft.
With Lyft.
And he wrote an article on this end of 2021. No, it's probably last year, in 2022, where he actually confirmed this. He said that the minister approached him to basically to partner with Harith to rescue SAA. And in essence, that's what happened. These entities, they emerged. I still remember it was during COVID times. I was at home and I was bombarded with calls, both from the minister and from Gideon Novik, saying, these people must be considered. I was saying, how do you explain it? How will we explain it to South Africans that that we have these people have just emerged in this particular process? I said it cannot be. I still have text message to myself and Gideon where I was actually explaining this to say, look, I can't be party to this particular press. And lo and behold, these people were brought in. The minister went on with the process, of course.
And this explains then why we were a year after the announcement still waiting for due diligence to be completed, for example, with Takatso.
Well, that's one of the issues that I raised, because I led the business rescue oversight for the department during 2020. And I got to that step where we had, obviously, and also in parallel, the process of finding a strategy equity partner, which was until at the beginning of 2021. And the minister set up a different team. But as a DG, obviously, they have to come back to me with whatever agreement that they would have reached with Takatso. At the end of 2021, when they presented that first draft of the share sale and purchase agreement, I had concerns. I had concerns with the valuation. I had concerns with that obviously I did not the capacity of Takatso, especially the financial capacity, was not clear to me there. And no due diligence had been done. In 2022, unfortunately, I got sick in December and January. I come back in February. And I asked the same questions. I even called in the legal service provider that was helping us out with this process. I said, how come you have not done a due diligence on this particular entity? Does this entity even exist? Does it legally exist? I mean, is there a PTY LTD out there that is called Takatso? And that is and even that would be interesting as to this entity, when was it registered versus obviously them emerging through a process that was overseen by the minister, his advisor, and obviously one of the junior managers. So that's in essence, that's what made me uncomfortable. And the fact that...
And you believe this is why you've been suspended?
That's why I've been suspended. And in actual fact, I think February, March, I went in back into hospital for just a day procedure. And the share sale and purchase agreement was signed.
On the day that you were not there?
The day at SAA, hastily arranged, the acting DG signed that, and even the colleagues at SAA were surprised. Takatso and Minister arrived there, this must be signed immediately.
So now we're told about massive under-evaluation, which is something that you've also raised. So talk to us about your belief in terms of to what extent the assets of SAA have been undervalued.
Well, conservatively, I would say by about 7 billion rands. The property portfolio of SAA in South Africa has been evaluated by the executive at about 6 billion rands. The Takatso valuation is 1.2 billion rands for the property. The total asset, they said, it was 3 billion rands. There's another 1.4 billion rands of cash that is in the regional markets that needs to be repatriated back into the country. There's a 3 billion rands of aircraft space that the executive have found. That takes you to at least 10 billion rands in terms of the value of based on the information I've just presented. But there's other assets that the chairperson in the excerpt just before this interview, but there's overseas bank accounts, there's possibly assets that are also overseas. There's movable assets that are not in that particular evaluation. So that figure could go in terms of the value of SAS go up to 15 billion rands. The NUMSA has come out and said the last time we had the financial statements of SAA, the SAA had about 17 billion rands of assets. So now how do you explain that deteriorate from 17 billion to 3 billion rands? Because assets will still be there, they'll still be useful, yes.
Mr. Tlhakudi, we're out of time, but just to bottom line this, because we did extend an invitation to the Department of Public Enterprises, so I'm sure they will take up the opportunity for right of reply. So what exactly are you alleging, and what are the issues that you believe need to be addressed?
Well, what I've been asking for a fair forum where these issues can be exhausted. And that's why I had brought this to the attention of Parliament, to the Speaker, to say, can you, Speaker, can you look into this? That's why I sent also a protected disclosure to the President as well as to the Public Protector. Can you say, can you have a look into these things here? Because these are serious. These are South African citizens' assets that have been misappropriated using legal instruments, so to speak. This is daylight robbery. That is what I have been alleging.
So no doubt we'll look into this further. I have absolutely no doubt that we will be talking more about this. The Department of Public Enterprises, the Minister himself may be one to respond to this, and we will take that up. But thank you so much, I think, for the first leg of this particular discussion. Suspended Public Enterprises Director General Kgathatso Tlhakudi speaking about alleged under-evaluation of South African Airways assets and other allegations as well. And as I said, Morning Live did invite the Public Enterprises Department. They said they will respond at an opportune time.